welcome back. We have a second session where we are going to talk about digital marketing again. This time we're going to look a bit more into different kind of social media here in China, different kind of channels in China, and how you as an SME can actually utilize on this one.
This is going to be more practical.
Yes. So Chinese social media, this is quite different than the Western social media. And if you've been to China once or twice or more than that, you may have noticed that you cannot check your Facebook, you cannot watch anything on YouTube. And there is a quite lot of different kind of social media sites which actually are blocked here in China due to the censorship of the government.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I think it will be good to understand what kind of platforms that would most resemble what you have been doing in Europe. For instance, if you have been using Tumblr as a blog, then you can look into, okay, what kind of blogs I can use in China.
Yes. So let's jump into this. I think the first thing, the first app you have to download when coming to China is WeChat. This is sort of the core number one social media messenger, everything in one app.
All in one.
Yes. Tell me, you know this from the very beginning of.
True, yeah. At the beginning, it's not a huge platform, but because WhatsApp is blocked, and also is more localized, is more designed for the locals here. So I think Tencent has created a fantastic app. It has evolved to become everything from just a WhatsApp at the beginning. So now you can order delivery on it, you can unlock your bike on the streets, you can buy movie tickets.
Yes.
You can literally do everything. So that is why it's your first touch point that you should consider.
If you compare WeChat to the Western social media, what is sort of the most similar one?
I would say Facebook.
Okay.
So maybe you would use Facebook Messenger now to send text with your friends. So you can do that as well, like WhatsApp. But there's this very important feature called Moments. So it's just like posting your life stories on Facebook.
Yes.
It's almost identical.
Yes. It is a solely mobile app, more or less. You can have a version on the computer as well, but that's much more limited than the one on the phone.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And this is back to the mobile first again. So everything is sort of focused on the WeChat on the phone, and then you have this application on your computer. So it's sort of opposite of the way thinking in Europe, where things are most advanced on the computer, and then you have like a slimmed down version on the phone. This is sort of opposite.
Yeah, just to give you some numbers of like how many people are using WeChat, it's almost like 900 million of monthly active user accounts. So it doesn't mean that 900 million of Chinese are using this, but it means that there are this many of accounts.
Yes.
So, but it just says how popular it is in China.
Yes.
And it's the number one app in China.
Absolutely.
And also looking at the numbers of mobile payment users, you see 600 million. And that's more an accurate reflection of the number of users, because each WeChat user has to tie the bank card with WeChat to use. So roughly you have 600 million of mobile payment users. So if you can reach them, they can instantly buy stuff on the mobile.
Yes. So the second platform I think is super interesting is Weibo.
Yeah, basically it copied Twitter at the beginning, but it's evolved to become a much bigger platform now. It's a huge microblogging platform, and it has a very unique ecology system now. And the dominant users are actually millennials, very young, energetic Chinese.
I think the first time I heard about Weibo was very different than what it is today. So it's been evolving into something a bit different. and it has a huge growth. I think 30% since 2014, year over year. So it's growing into something different than Weibo was for like 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm not sure if it was 7 years ago. You always tend to hear that Weibo is the Twitter of China, but it's really not. It's much more than the Twitter of China.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that the users of Weibo is very educated. Like you can see, like 77.8% of users hold a university degree. That is a huge number.
Yes. So Weibo is also very good to reach these millennials, and also to spark a discussion on these social media platforms. I think that's a good part.
Yeah.
Then you have different kind of video platform. You don't have YouTube here in China. You have different kind of video platforms, and there's many of them. Could you tell me a couple of them?
Yep, sure. So you can see on the presentation slide that there are 3 big platforms in China now. iQIYI is the one that's associated with Baidu.
Yes.
Youku is the one with Alibaba, and also like Tencent Video. They are the biggest video platforms that Chinese watch their videos on now.
And I watched a couple of videos then, and they tend to sort of be also very commercialized. The way you're looking at these videos, a bit different than you have on the YouTube.
But the technique for a successful digital marketing campaign is actually quite similar to YouTube.
Yes.
So you have to set like accurate keywords on the title so that people can find you. You need to have like short and eye-catching keywords as well. So we can talk about it like more in later.
Yes, I think in Europe or in the Western world, YouTube is actually the second biggest search engine. So it's a similar here in China as well. When people looking for something, like if it's a review on a product or basically just to look around, make sure that you are tagging your content correctly.
Yeah, and actually people are preferring like short videos instead of like super long commercials.
And talking about video, live streaming, that's sort of the next thing. We have seen that in Europe as well, but here in China it's turned into something a bit different, right?
Yeah, it's really crazy, and the total live broadcasting users actually grew to like almost 350 million at the end of last year, and it's very similar to Weibo. The users are very young.
Okay.
Like 70% of the users are under the age of 35, and it is very striking that you can see literally everything on live streaming, like people eating,
sleeping as well.
Sleeping. Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen.
And when you go to a movie theaters now, like all the commercials before playing a movie, they're mostly about like video platforms or live streaming platforms.
Yes.
So it shows like how popular it is to the Chinese younger generation.
Yes. And this is of course a super platform also if you have KOLs, like key opinion leaders, which you're engaging in some kind of marketing campaigns, then this is a good way to do that.
Yeah, but because of government regulation, foreigners will be quite tricky. We should be careful about like doing live streaming in China, and it's better to pair with like a local agencies with Chinese KOLs that already have like thousands of followers.
Yes,
that's way easier.
Yes. So then there's a couple of Q&A platforms in China. These are like Quora in the West, where people go to these platforms to find answers on different kind of questions they have or others have.
Yeah, and people generally like trust these platforms because they know that like the users are usually professionals or they're very like they have relevant expertise in certain areas.
Yes.
So like the answers are very respected, and people trust the reviews on these platforms.
So this is a good place to build reputation if you have good insight into the cultural aspects, good insight into the Chinese language, of course.
Yeah.
You can use this one also to give credible answers about your products or about your brand or about your history or about the country you're coming from.
Yeah.
So you can build sort of a community around that one. So it's quite interesting.
So for instance, if you are a baby food provider from, let's say, Italy, you can and you have a Chinese name, you can say that you can ask a question on these Q&A platforms and say like, how do you comment on baby food products from Italy?
Yes.
So you can give like a general informative answers and then do you can inject like a small advertising in the answer as well. So this is what people usually do nowadays.
Yes. So there is also a couple of legacy systems, right? You have QQ and RenRen. Could you just tell me very shortly about these two?
So basically, RenRen was dubbed as the Chinese Facebook, but it's largely relevant. Like people would not understand what RenRen is like nowadays.
Yes.
For local Chinese. And for QQ, actually, it was the biggest platform before WeChat.
Yes.
And it's still used very heavily, but more as an access point, like a login account.
Yes.
Because it is under the same company as Tencent. So QQ and WeChat, they are to some extent complementary right now.
Okay.
But because QQ has a bigger focus on the local Chinese market and is less frequently used by foreign companies.
Yeah.
So unless you have a very specialized team that know the Chinese market really well and can invest resources in this area, we would not recommend you to dig very deep in these two platforms.
But again, China changed very fast, so this might be very different in 2 or 3 years. So better check in on this and also the newcomers. So let's look into how the SMEs can actually use these kind of Chinese media, and I think we're just gonna focus on a couple of them, like WeChat being the most important one, and we just briefly touched based on the Weibo. So I have seen on my WeChat account there is something called the official account and a subscription account. Can you just, from your point of view, brief us on this?
Yep, sure. So you have a Facebook page and you have WeChat official accounts. So they're very similar. And there are two types of WeChat official accounts. Okay. One is the subscription account that you just talked about. Okay. Another one is the service account. So for subscription accounts, as the owner of the account, you can publish messages every day, one message per day. And it's mainly used for publishing news and broadcasting interesting information. And for service account, it has more functions. So upon verification, you can access to like APIs, you can use WeChat Pay, you can start an e-commerce store. There are way more like interesting functions that you can explore. So if you want to tie your WeChat accounts with e-commerce functions, it's definitely go for service accounts. But if you are just doing it for broadcasting information, then just use the subscription accounts.
Okay. So you say also for payment, I think that's an interesting aspect. The whole setting up WeChat store and the WeChat payment. I know there is also a couple of other training programs on exactly this. So if you look into the EU SMEs Center documents again, there is more documents and information about exactly this. But very briefly, what is a WeChat store and what is a WeChat payment?
So basically, WeChat payment ties to what we talk about, like with the QR codes, so people can like scan the QR codes or they can pay online. So the basic idea is like that. And for WeChat store, it's like an e-commerce solution for selling items directly in WeChat. So you can just have like a mini store and so that like people can use WeChat to browse information as well as buy directly. So that's like the basic concept of it. But obviously, like if you need to start an account, you have to go through all these procedures, which I believe that there are other EU SME reports or trainings that would discuss further in these areas.
And of course, WeChat also have the benefit of being a mobile service, more or less. You have the geotagging, different kind of third-party solution. What is quite big at the moment is these mini programs, which is coming. You have different kind of corporate accounts you can have. And there's a vast variety of different kind of application you can sort of build on top of the WeChat platform and infrastructure, which depending on the campaign or depending on the marketing strategy or the brand, it's worth looking into in a more depth than we can talk about here in this presentation.
But I would say like during the account registration phase, because I think Tencent does require like different documents from foreign companies. So would advise that you find a local partner with deep knowledge of WeChat, so that it can facilitate all these like documentation, like legal stuff for you.
Yes. And Weibo, there is also different ways to use Weibo when it comes to sort of enhancing the marketing for SME.
So it's way easier than WeChat to set up like a service account, because when it involves like e-commerce solutions, it requires like more documentation. But for Weibo, it's like Twitter, so you can just register an account and publish whatever you like. So you just need an active email address or phone number, and that would be enough. And in the case of a EU SME, if you need to set up like an official account for a company, and that is a little bit more complicated as an official account, and a more detailed verification process will be required, and you need documents to prove your legal identity. But basically the idea is just like Twitter. It's very similar.
But it's not like Twitter.
It's not like Twitter. No. Yeah, but like on a very broad sense, it's very similar.
And I think where we have seen quite a lot of good marketing campaigns going on Weibo is by using the KOLs, the key opinion leaders, where they have their accounts and they have their followers, and where they are talking directly to these people and engaging these people into a brand conversation or a product conversation about something coming to the market or something which is in the market, and they have a huge influence on their peer groups, and there's a possibility to match the peer group of the brand and the peer group of these KOLs, and such sort of use them to reach out with a message.
Yeah, because imagine when you are done with all these procedures to apply for set up an account, you wouldn't have any followers. So the quickest way to do it is to partner with a KOL, like a key opinion leader, who has like a large base of followers that closely resemble your target audience. So, but we think that like for the size and budget of an EU SME, instead of going for like A-list KOLs, because they're getting super expensive now, you can look into like either like micro influencers or grassroots influencers that maybe have more sway with consumer groups in their certain expertise, and the cost will be a fraction of what the top influencers would charge.
And this is back again to know your target audience, know your target group, understand who you are talking to, because you need to match your KOLs with that target group as well.
Yep, exactly.
And if you find your niche, you're most likely spending your money wiser.
Yeah.
So that's important. Okay, let's look into how to optimize the search engines, because there is no Google in China, right?
Yeah.
So there's also some rules applying to this. That's a couple of things. The first thing is doing like search engine marketing, this SEO, SMO, all the
SEO,
like. But the concept is actually quite straightforward. Is you have your target audience, which are searching on the web by using different kind of keywords, And by doing the SEO, SEM, SMO, that sort of help that target group to reach your page or your information. That's sort of the whole concept of that. So it's on one hand, it's sort of optimizing everything the search engine needs to have from your side, like every keyword, every sort of content, all these kind of things on your website. The Chinese website it be, because Baidu is crawling and searching the Chinese websites.
Yeah.
And they have some English ones as well,
but predominantly Chinese. It favors Chinese websites.
So this is sort of when you do the marketing adaptations, your website also need to be adapted to the Chinese market. That's a whole ball game for itself, because you need to have the license for the website and so here in China. But when you do that, you optimize the web page for Baidu. So Baidu is actually getting the right keywords and mapping it to what the people are searching for. And the second thing you can do this is a content marketing on the search engine, is where you start paying money to get sort of your pictures or advertisers on top of their search result. So if somebody searches for diapers and you happen to be a diaper producer, you can pay yourself to be on top of that. Then you can do sort of negative cleansing. You sort of try to get negative feedback away. That's also something which can be paid for, or which can be through different kind of agencies help with, to make sure that negative feedback is also removed from Baidu.
Yeah. And
the last thing is sort of when you do the keyword advertisements as well, when you have your own brand, so on and so on. So this works in principle very similar as the way Google is working, but this at the same way works very differently because it's Chinese, because it's a different kind of keywords.
Yeah. So again, we would advise like find a local partner, because it's all in Chinese. Yes. So you need someone who knows Chinese and who knows the Chinese market really well to do that for you.
And I think like 76% is Baidu, and they have a couple of small one, and then you have like 1.8% using Google, and those has to use VPN.
Yeah.
So it's basically those who are international anyway. Interestingly, the Baidu, when you do the search, is very image heavy. So you also need to think about your images and how you sort of take those pictures and what do they look like and how is it sort of set in a Chinese context. So you have that sort of up to date when it comes to visually presenting your product or your brand when people are searching for something which happen to be what you are doing.
And another point is that like there's a reach snippet frequency on Baidu. So you can see on the slide here that like under the website they will have small images complementing like the search results. So back to Bjorn's point on like very image heavy, yes, it is like image heavy, like compared to Google, it's very neat and tidy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's typical also Chinese design, it tends to be quite chaotic. So it's sort of the whole way of visual language and usability is different than what you have in the West. You can also use sort of these kind of things in a bit more advanced way. One of them is demand side platform. This is more the tactical side of the marketing. This is how you reach out to your target groups. So again, find out who they are and why would you like to reach them, what are they talking about and so forth. Which is classical marketing, I guess.
Yep.
And the way this is DSP works is that the companies is setting sort of a strategic goal, defining sort of different kind of projects KPIs, sort of who would they like to reach, how many people would they like to reach, how much money do they have, what is the budget, and so on and so forth. And then there is a third party which is basically profiling and matching different kind of profile based upon social media, social profiles, to try to find the people which you as an SME actually is targeting.
Yeah.
Which means that when you put an ad, like a banner or what it should be, online on the internet, it basically only shows to the people you are interested in. So, which means you're paying less money per click, because basically people who are interested in you tend to like what you do.
Yeah.
So that's where you had a DSP platform, which is basically pushing the content to the target audience, and it's an automatic bidding process.
But of course, it can get like very technical.
It's going to get super technical, and we probably can speak hours about that. But it's a smart way to use an automatic bid process to get your campaigns out there. This is sort of where you really need to work with the local agencies, which have an understanding of how the DSP work in China. It's from principle also the same as in the West.
Yeah.
But it's sort of different tools, it's different sort of keywords, it's different means and so
different agencies that you go through. So yeah.
And where it also can get really complex is sort of where we start analyzing and try to understand what the people are searching for and looking for, and where you can sort of use data to get insight into the customer base of yours, or track sort of how a campaign is actually doing. So this is the power of new data. And Chris, like when I started, this was sort of very new, but you had like this traditional service, and you start interviewing people. Now this can be done a bit smarter, right?
Yeah, like Chinese companies go online with all this already, and sometimes indirectly as well.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of asking you questions directly, they may look into like your online behavior and analyze like what kind of websites you like to look at, or what kind of products you've bought previously on different e-commerce platforms. Like like it's so powerful, and sometimes it's quite creepy, like to find out like how much actually like companies know about you.
And this is also different than in the West. I think the data privacy.
Yeah,
it's a bit different, to the good and the worse, of course. But as a marketer, you have much more powerful tool to find your target audience.
Yeah. So, and there are some tools that we want to introduce to you, and that you can use to track and to have a basic understanding about your consumers' behavior online. So,
and the principle is actually quite simple. There's different kind of data, which are being collecting from search data to the website data, social media data, mobile data, and so on. There's everything which one person is doing. That's sort of collected by different kind of data analyst companies or corporations. This be Baidu, which have a lot of data, search data, Weibo, WeChat, and so on and so forth. And then the output of that, of course, is sort of you can do the campaign tracking, you can do the optimization of your marketing campaign, or you can sort of have a continuously feedback on whatever activity you basically is doing. So if you look into that, we can take Baidu as an example. So Baidu being the Chinese search engine of like Google-ish. There is our index.baidu.com, which is very much the same as like trend on Google. So when you look at the Baidu index, there's actually quite a lot of things you can do with that. You can first of all search for the different kind of keywords, and how the keywords is actually updating. So this over time, of course. But what I think is quite cool is sort of the keywords and how the keywords is actually relating to other keywords.
Yeah, when you look at number 3 and number 4, you see the very cool radar sonar thing. It actually shows the most related keywords that is associated with the particular specific keyword that you're looking for. For instance, in the case, on the Baidu index page, I'm looking for baby products, but in the radar it actually shows me that 2 of the most popular e-commerce platforms, which is like Beibei and Wuying Zhijia, they are related to baby products, because people look for whenever they search for baby products, they usually go after like these e-commerce platforms.
Yes.
So they are really, really useful in expanding your keyword vocabularies.
Yes, and I think it's also interesting to see some basic demographics, like how old are the people, and what kind of gender. Like baby food, there's more female than male. If there would like be a wrench or a hammer, it would be probably opposite, I guess.
Yeah.
So this is quite cool, and we can get some geographical aspects as well.
Yeah, but there are several key points you need to know about using Baidu Index. Is that you need to have a Baidu account, and Baidu Index would only match a keyword if it exists in a database.
Okay.
So it's not like Google that you could just put in like a random word, but instead only like popular search terms would exist like in the results. And if you want to have like analysis on specific terms, you need to pay for that.
Okay. And WeChat also have something called WeChat Index. This is pretty new. You can search for WeChat Index, and you get sort of an interface in which you can also put in your search keywords.
Yep.
And you get sort of how that keyword has been used over time or searched for or written for. And this is a bit the black box from WeChat.
Yeah, it's just an index. Tencent has not disclosed like the technology behind this metrics.
So this one you rather use it as like an indication of something. So it doesn't really say anything specific as we know it because it's not been disclosed. But you can have a really good insight into sort of how is that developing over time, for instance. That's a good thing. And that's what we have for the second part.
Section, yeah.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see you back in the third part where we actually really go into how to do this, how to get things done.
Exactly.
Cool.